What are signs that someone is secretly unhappy? A distant worried gaze, tiredness, smiling without their eyes, apathy, going with the flow to avoid conflict. Oof, I feel called out lol. They stop engaging in hobbies and activities they used to love. That empty, dull, listless gaze is my dead giveaway. You can tell a lot by someone's eyes. Oh god, it me. Self-depreciating humor, laughing too much, not talking, withdrawing from conversations, avoiding friends, spending more time alone. Those are my signs when it gets worse. Apart from laughing too much, you just described an introvert. Those are definitely signs for someone who's normally outgoing. But for someone like me, that's basically a default state which I am perfectly happy at. Self-depreciating humor isn't inherently introverty, but yeah, other than that, I think it's meant for people who aren't usually like that, not people who are always like that. Some people really try to make others happier when they fail or are unable to do it for themselves. It's sad how true this is for me. I don't really get to feel it, but I know that they're feeling happy. I feel the opposite is also true. Miserable people sometimes make it their mission to make everyone else as miserable as them. Miserable people make others miserable, kind. But unhappy people try their best to help people and prevent them from going through the same stuff they are. I became a happier person when I started cutting ties with those people. Sometimes you just can't tell. The class office friend group clown can be miserable. Something Robin Williams said has always stuck with me. I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless and they don't want anyone else to feel like that. Trying to avoid their personal lives and conversations. I just automatically assume it's a trap. That's how I feel too. Anytime I trust anyone with personal information, it mostly ends up being used against me or to give me evidence that I'm a failure, even if what I shared wasn't negative to begin with. Why bother trusting after that? I'm just tired. Similar, I have a headache. Morbid jokes. A coworker once told me see you tomorrow as I left work. I replied only if the rope snaps. I have a theory that only depressed people make suicide jokes. What gave it away, besides the rope? Them. How are you? Me. I ain't dead yet, though not for a lack of trying. Ha ha ha. Consistently downcast gaze. I was telling my therapist about how it's hard for me to meet anyone's eye whilst talking to them. I noticed it a couple months ago and it's gotten worse. I hope that my next talk with him we can figure that out. It's distracting. My strategy was to look at the spot between their eyes. It kind of helps. And it's impossible to tell. And then you don't have to keep switching between which of their eyes you look at. Which weirdly made my anxiety spike. Totally unrelated to the topic. But just as a SAR, if you try to compensate by staring at the top of people's foreheads, they notice that very quickly. Overeating and undereating. This I just got through dating someone who was so messed up but presented like they had everything in control. I was taken for a short lousy ride filled with nothing but lies. I had missed the biggest sign right in front of me. Dude must be extremely unhappy internally. That sounds exactly like my most recent relationship. Glad you had the wits about you to get out of it before it got worse. Their shoulders droop, look uninterested and seem to always not be present in the moment, always thinking about something else. God, I feel called out. I am looking through all of their comments and like 80% of them just call me out. I used to be like this for a good time in college. It gives me terrible flashbacks. Great, every single comment applies to me. Lomfeo right, like now I guess I gotta hold my head up at work to make sure no one's the wiser. They ask you how you are and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, and you just can't get into it because they would never understand. Secretly unhappy is tough. Most people who are unhappy don't hide it very well because it's too exhausting. So there are signs you can look for, but someone actively hiding unhappiness is tough. They usually do it for a reason, like they have a family depending on them or they have an image to protect. Something like that, like Robin Williams, for instance. Best advice I can suggest is actively listen to what people say, even when making jokes and laughing. The topics they talk about might reveal what's on their mind. For instance, if the jokes are always about how much life sucks, or how awful work is, or how money is always scarce, then maybe they're not really jokes. The other day my boss jokingly told me to quit drinking. I said, "It's the only thing that keeps me happy," and we all laughed. Rage can be a sign of depression, especially in males. Anger almost always comes from sadness. Yep, I learned this about myself when I started going to therapy. Self-depreciating humor is a huge one. I often joke about how antisocial I am. In reality, social anxiety has destroyed any chance of a normal life for me, and I wouldn't wish it on my very worst enemy. I'll wish it on your worst enemy for you, but alas, you already have it. Try doing things with just 1 or 2 other people at a park away from crowds. Posting selfies all day online. Care to elaborate? Someone I care about a lot does this and it confuses the hell out of me. It's a thinly veiled way to seek validation. It could mean other areas of their life are lacking or sad. Getting likes triggers dopamine release which people think make them feels good, but it's fleeting, and require more and more posting to maintain the validation machine. Working on something worthwhile will bring much more joy. Constant over-positivity. Usually if someone is constantly talking about how great life is, it's because they're trying to convince themselves that life is actually good. This was me in my 20s, and how I got myself into debt. I desperately wanted to portray myself on social media as someone having a blast, partying, going to bars, etc. I did it to try and fill some sort of hole. Like if I portrayed myself as so happy, maybe one day it would be true. It didn't. It just wasted a lot of money. Purchasing stuff they don't really need. Essentially spending a lot of money unnecessarily. I've done this. Was trying to buy happiness. After the purchase I'd realize I'm not any happier and it'd crush me. Hope you're doing better. Avoiding certain topics or any type of conversation, or even avoiding people altogether. Avoiding topics mostly means that the person probably has problems with that. Some topics like family, abuses, drugs, etc. When you ask how they are, they make a point of smiling and saying "I'm fine" or "I'm good." In my experience dealing with depression, the worse you feel, the harder you insist nothing is wrong. What are you talking about? I'm fine. This I'll add. If they aren't engaging, telling stories, or seem to be up to anything when you talk to them, they may simply be going through shit and living in their own head most or all of the time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more Reddit videos.